Hey, this is Butch Patrick. That's right, Eddie Munster, and you're listening to the Balls of Ellwood show with me.
Hey now, cats, we're back this week. Welcome back to the Balls from Ellwood show. I have a very, very special guest today, someone that I have admired and loved my whole life and been a fan of, and I am super excited to introduce today Butch Patrick. Eddie, you know him as TV's Eddie's Munster, and I just want to say I'm very happy to have you here today. Thank you for being a guest here. Butch, would you like to say hello to the audience?
Hey, hello, audience. How you doing?
All right, I'll start in here. I've got the serious questions. I think he's got the fun questions. So
okay.
But I guess
we'll make them all fun.
Oh,
all right, well, that's what I like to hear.
That's a good attitude. So I guess we all know you were a child actor, and I've always wondered, had that not happened, had you not gone down that path, and never worked out for you, what would you have done? Would you have worked a 9-to-5 in an office? How about on a construction site? What would Butch Patrick be doing if you weren't the legendary Eddie Munster?
That's interesting because I don't think we would ever know, because you never, you go down one road and you don't really know what would have occurred. But if I had to wonder, I enjoyed drafting as a kid, and I probably would have been a race car driving architect.
Ooh,
oh, wow.
That's pretty good. I like that. Now, do you have regrets or maybe resentment maybe towards your parents or anything like that for,
None whatsoever. I had a great childhood, a great family. My grandma, my mom, my aunts, my uncle, everybody, my siblings. I couldn't have asked for a better childhood. When I was working as a kid actor, and when I was doing the Munsters, for instance, my mom had married a professional baseball player, so when I had time off, I got to hang around the Major League ballpark.
Awesome.
And when I turned 16, I got a brand new Mach 1, and I had a chance to hang around the drag strips with Jack Crispin and Dr. Dome and all the greatest, funny car drivers and dragster drivers. So I always had a really good time, even when I wasn't in front of the camera.
Awesome.
I mean, being that you were a child actor and you did spend a lot of the time on a set, when you made like regular friends, I mean, did you find that they treated you differently because you were in fact a child actor, Butch?
Not my true friends, people that didn't know me, that just happened to live in the same town or went to junior high school with me, would be kind of, the kids would be kids. So it just made me for a stronger person, had thicker skin. But my good friends, and I had a lot of good friends, especially ones that were into race cars like myself and street cars and cruising around and surfing. I had a sort of a dual life. I went to work into studios. I lived 25 miles away in the Beach District in Los Angeles. Grew up with mini bikes, go-karts, slot cars, all the good stuff that every other kid would want to do too. So I was always around other kids doing that kind of stuff, and then I would go to work, and that would be my job. So I separated the two really well.
Awesome.
Now, when did you start acting? You were 7 years old, right? And you grew up in California, is that correct?
Yes, I grew up in California back then in the early 60s, late 50s. You really had to live in L.A. if you were going to be working in the business because it hadn't expanded to the rest of the country yet. Everything was still based in Hollywood.
So at what age did you realize, was it the Munsters that made you realize that you wanted to, be an actor the rest of your life, or,
No, I never wanted to be an actor. It was one of those things that came as a hobby, and it came easy to me, and it was like literally, I stumbled into it accidentally, and then once I got the first interview and did 6 weeks of work in The Two Little Bears as a movie, I thought, well, this is kind of cool. Instead of going back to public school, I could continue working here. And immediately I knew I was making money that someday would come in handy when I became an adult to buy a race car. That was my plan. So I was very analytical about it early on, and I never wanted to work past me being 21.
Nice. So you mentioned, you had a really good childhood in your family. So your mom was on the set with you almost every day, or how did that work?
No, my mom actually. What it was, I was living in Ellwood. My grandmother, I used to crisscross the country with her on her antique buying tours, and I always enjoyed traveling, which is probably why I do it so well today, and I still enjoy it. But I was living in Illinois with my grandmother, and my mom had married my father, the baseball player. They were living in Washington, D.C. I flew out to L.A. for an interview because the Munsters, they had cast the kid. They still weren't happy with the mom and the son, so they recast the mom as Monte Carlo. They flew me out for an interview. I got the part. They told me not to get back on a plane. I moved in with my uncle and hired a woman to take me to work because my mom was in D.C. raising my brothers. She'd gotten pregnant. So
wow.
When I was 10, 11, 12 years old, my two brothers were born, and I pretty much had a routine where I would go visit them about once a month, and then I would go. I would work the rest of the time, and we would hire people to take me to work.
Wow, that's so crazy.
I mean, I always wanted to ask you. I mean, I have a clear-cut favorite. But I mean, do you find yourself still watching the Munsters, and do you actually have a favorite episode?
I have several actually. There's a lot of them that I enjoy, and the more that I watch, the more of them outside the three that I'm going to mention. There's probably 10 secondary ones, but the three favorites that I have at the moment are Hot Rod Herman, where they introduce the Dragula dragster and win the car back, and it takes place at Lions Drag Strip, which is not too far from my house, hence the drag racing connection. Then I enjoyed Eddie's Nickname, where I grew a beard because it was just a funny episode.
That's a great one.
Paul Lynde was so funny, and I thought the scene where we go to the doctor is a classic one. And then Zombo.
That's my absolute favorite. It's funny you brought him up. Hey, I actually had a question from the audience, and they wanted to know if you're still pissed off at Zombo, or are you okay now?
Yeah, it was funny when I was doing it because Billy Nye was great, but the scene in it where I'm noticing that Zombo's not a real guy, and I'm looking at his house, and I tell Mom, I go, "Look, Mom, in Zombo's house is fake. Is there anything real around here?" And the TV producer goes, "It's real, Eddie. It's television. Nothing's real."
Yeah, that's so good.
No, those are my three favorites, and then there's one. I enjoy the ones where Herman likes to get out and show his athletic prowess to Eddie because I volunteer him for some chore or for some task. And it's like there's the one where he's riding the horse. There's one where Herman the rookie when he tries out for baseball.
Oh, that's a classic too. The one where he can't sleep and he's taking the walks in the park at night too, and he's scared everybody and he doesn't realize he's the one that scared everybody. That's so good.
Yeah, there's In fact, you mentioned earlier being on the Howard Stern show, and Howard loves the Munsters.
Oh, yeah, I know he does, and I know Rob Zombie does, too. He has a coffee table book of the Munsters. But you'd mentioned Herman. I mean, I would love to know, like, can you give us any, your favorite Fred Gwynn story or Al Lewis story? I mean, those guys had to be amazing to work with, and I'm sure you probably are a wealth of stories, but can you give us your favorite story of working with those cats?
Well, the Fred scenes were basically, he taught me a lot about acting, the acting techniques, like when we did the musician where I took a potion to learn how to play the trumpet, and, he's talking to me, and I go in and out of this not a kind of beatnik type of thing. Hey, Daddy, me and my horn are going to grab a jet and get us a lounge act in Vegas. And so he was sort of teaching me how to do that, where Al Lewis was very over-the-top, vaudevillian, crazy man in the dungeon, and Al would teach me a lot of things about, never trust the suits, the producers are the enemy in Hollywood, and the actors are the actors, and the suits are the suits, and things of that nature. All fun, but it still had overtones of accuracy. So they took me to go see my first hockey game. I remember that. They were big hockey fans, and long before we had the Kings in Los Angeles, they were a AAA team called the Blades, and that was a fun deal. Fred was a musician and an artist, and he was a great guy to be around, and so was Alan, Yvonne, and everybody was good on the show. I mean, there wasn't really a weak link on the whole chain.
Well, that being said, can I ask you, who was the easiest to get along with, and who was the most difficult? I mean, I know you probably got along with them all, but I mean, was there days where somebody was the most easiest to get along with, and there was days that perhaps maybe somebody was difficult?
Not really. I suppose if you had Yvonne probably would have to say occasionally would have been the most difficult, because she had the hardest thing with the wig and the makeup and the entourage and all the people making her do this stuff. Well, I know that Fred had his hands full as well, but she was by herself, teamed up against Fred and Al, who were New York comedy actors, TV actors, where she was a big movie star. So at the get-go, they used to torture her relentlessly until they figured out that she was really good at what she did, and she did the comedy well, and she brought a lot of strength to the character as Lily Munster. So I think everybody, but honestly, I like them all.
Oh, excellent. I was going to say, you're actually, you do a lot of conventions and whatnot, and I wanted to ask you, I mean, you meet probably people from all walks of life, much like us, and I wanted to ask you, what is the strangest thing that a fan has ever requested of you?
Oh, requested of me?
Yeah, like they wanted you to do something or give you something, or I don't know.
Yeah, I try to accommodate them the best I can, but I've been pretty lucky that there really hasn't been a whole lot of weird stuff. That people have been pretty reserved and tasteful and classy about what they've requested, and I think that's one of the reasons why they know they can come to me with requests for someone that couldn't make it out, or they're sick, or they're home, or they're in the wrong state. And we try to do the technology. FaceTime with somebody, or you call somebody, or send them home with a picture that they maybe couldn't make it out. So that type of thing. We also stop along the way. My wife Leela runs the fan group, which is approaching 18,000 people now. So when we're traveling, which we do every week, if there's somebody on the way from point A to point B, and it's possible to pull in and visit a fan or two, we do that quite a bit. The other day we stopped in a little town with one of our big fan group members, and she had the mayor and the chief of police and the judges out there, and there was like 12 people waiting for us in this Walmart parking lot. It was very, very funny. And we presented her with a nice trophy that one of my cars had won at a car show previously that weekend, so she was a happy camper. But we do stuff like that all the time.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool.
It really is. That is really great. What is it about the show that you think appeals to people of all walks of life? I mean, the show is so popular, and I mean, I know people that are 7 years old and 70 years old that still enjoy it. What do you think makes it all these years connect with people so much?
Well, the original group that are my age, that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, were watching it first time around. They were watching it because they were living in the 60s, and the 60s was just a really cool time, and there was a lot of great non-reality-based shows like Talking Horses and My Favorite Martian and Genies and Witches and all of the above, made for good comedy viewing. But you got to remember, it was the 60s. There was only 3 channels. There was no internet. There was no cable. There was no distraction. The entertainment for the evening usually was television, and in the Midwest, 6:30 was the beginning of prime time, which was the Munsters. So that got their attention the first time around. Now, the second generation and the third generation, I think they're enjoying it because it really captured good cinematography, good set design, good acting, funny bits. A lot of very talented comedians guest starred on the show early in their careers. So those people got a chance to see it. And now the kids today watching it are enjoying it because it's so far removed from anything they've ever seen, but yet they like it because it is monsters, lovable monsters, with great visuals and special effects, even though it was early in the special effects phase before computer graphics and all the above, it still is very effective. So I think the fact that it's just purest filmmaking that a lot of people, young people, appreciate it because it was so well done, shot on film, shot by the Monster Studio, Universal Studios, taking advantage of their talent and expertise of making the best horror movies of the time, or maybe forever in the 40s, 30s, and 40s. So all of the above. And we had great music, we had great actors, good writing, good sets, good cars. It was all there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's almost like the simplicity to the young generation now. It's probably mind-boggling to them, you know?
Well, and it was also done by the people who did Leave It to Beaver. So the producers had this family unit situation down. They knew what it took to make a very simple, effective family, love affair happen. And then you add in the Munsters, the twist of a beautiful blonde who thinks that she's the reason her boyfriends are running away, and they don't see her as beauty, they see her as unfortunate, and she doesn't view them as monsters, she views them as a family. So it has a lot of very social commentary under the line, and it was the 60s, so there was a lot of stuff going on. But this particular show, right place, right time, right people, 2-year window, it just happened to just hit right at the right time.
Yeah, that's a lot of the battle, I'm sure. I just wanted to throw in, I guess, maybe more of a serious note, if you will. It seems like, a lot of kid stars, the typical, stereotypical situation is they, end up in the tabloids and, going down that dark path and... I don't know, maybe the tabloids weren't that huge or what the deal was, but I don't feel like you fell into that typical trap of the child star.
Well, actually, I did. But
you did?
I kept it. I was a functioning alcoholic and drug addict for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
From 1970 to 2011. So I've been sober almost 8 years. But in that 40-year run... Well, thank you. But in that 40-year run, I found out early on I was really good at throwing parties. I really enjoyed, getting high. I remember when I was a kid, all I could think about was getting old enough to where I could go drink and party and run amok. Because in Hollywood, it was acceptable behavior, and everybody there was doing it. And if you were an actor and you had money and people wanted to be your friend, it was very accessible. Yeah. And I threw great parties.
And it was I feel like it was probably almost expected of you as well.
Well, it was somewhat. And even though I lived at the beach, early on, my turning point was my sister. It was funny. I went on an interview, took a friend to an interview when I was 16, and the producer came out and hired me instead of my friend. 3 days later, I was in Brazil with no teacher and no parent for 3 months at the age of 16, and all I really had to do was show up for work. And during that 3-month period, my sister said, "You left as Richie Cunningham, and you came back as John Lennon." That was the beginning of my party scene,
Yeah.
And it ran for quite a while.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the sobriety. That's an awesome feat.
Absolutely, that's incredible, man. Like, back in the day though, can you describe the wildest and craziest party you've ever been to?
No, probably not the wild and craziest one because I wouldn't remember those.
Right.
Can you?
But I was known for having massive parties at the beach, and we would cram 300 or 400 people into a 2-bedroom house, and at the beach with 1 bathroom, and have the cops coming up the street, like in riot gear before rioting, because they all knew that Munster was having a party, and the way they were going to catch us all, they were going to block off the streets and fishing had come in, but they didn't anticipate me escaping to the house next door.
You got it all figured out, man. Can you say as being a child star has ever been a detriment to like your personal relationships?
No, I don't believe so. I don't think so. I used to just always want to be a regular guy. All I wanted to do was be one of the guys. That's probably which led to my partying, because we would all have our racing cars down at the gas station working on them and bring a case of beer along. And it was just being one of the dudes. That's all I wanted to do was be accepted as a regular guy. And that's kind of how I went about it. Was my way of being one was having all the goodies that everybody wanted, and having the beer and throwing the party parties, and that was how I tried to fit in.
Man, that's amazing, dude. It's a pleasure to be talking to you. And like, I wanted to say the monster. Yeah, I mean, the Munsters has always been about monsters and kind of supernatural. Have you yourself ever experienced anything supernatural, or like, have you ever encountered any quote unquote like haunted houses?
Oh my gosh, you aren't aware that I'm living in a haunted house at my grandma's home that I purchased a couple of years ago? I thought for sure you might have known that.
We might have heard something about it.
We might have heard something, but I definitely think it's interesting for my audience, and I'm sure they would love to hear about it.
I'm living in an 1875 Queen Anne that my grandmother owned in the 60s, and like I said, moved back to live with her when I was in the 8th grade. Over the years, I kept an eye on it, kept in contact with my childhood friends as we all grew old together. I wound up buying it a couple of years ago because it was going to get demolished, but as I was leaving L.A., my sister said, and by the way, you know that house is haunted. And I said, no. She goes, you lived in it. You didn't see the ghost? I said, no. She goes, well, Miss Ruby's there, and one thing led to another, and I brought some professional ghost hunters in, and we have like 13 active ghosts that have taken up residence there, but it's built in a vortex, so there's always Grand Central Station of ghost travel. It's like there's just always activity. We've got ghosts on film on our security cameras, people that watch the house when I'm gone, or constantly hearing it giggling and footsteps and things moving around. It's just a very active house, and it has been that way since the late 1800s, and everybody in town knows it. It just happens to be common knowledge. So, yeah, it's there, and everybody that comes to visit knows about it, except me. For some reason, I haven't been able to see any of the stuff other than the cameras and the videos. I see those, but I haven't seen anything in person or felt anything in person yet. But
wow.
I got a feeling something's going to break here pretty soon.
And you sleep okay at night?
Yeah, we even have a pet bat that comes in and flies around, and we call him Grandpa, of course.
Well, I tell you what, sir.
Yeah, there's a lot of if you go to Munsters events, there's a lot of videos out there of the house and our trips and our stopping and visiting people, and people. One of the things we do is we try to document everything we do for people that aren't that aren't available or can't catch us in person. This way, they can sort of get a feel for what we're doing.
Well, that leads me to anything. Is there anything else you would like to plug? I mean, I know you do a lot of charitable things, and you do a lot of great things for people, and I'd like to take this opportunity. Is there any things you'd like to talk about or plug before we let you go there, Butch?
Well, not especially. I mean, Munsters.com is a website I've owned forever, and it's got everything that you would want to know about me or the missus or the haunted house or our travels is listed there. If you'd like to join the fan group, we have probably the most active and celebrity-driven active fan group in the country called the Official Munsters Fan Group, approaching 18,000 members in a little over 2 years, which is pretty good. It's all family-friendly, no spam, no off-color stuff. And my wife monitors it and has a bunch of minions to monitor it, so nobody gets in and starts doing anything that would be considered not family or G-rated. So that's a good thing, and we've got a great site, and it's a lot of fun to do. And I got some projects coming up that you can hear about as things develop. We may have a new TV show, and like I say, the house is up for sale because I'm never there. So I'm going to probably wind up selling it to a paranormal community of some people that wants to that work the house and live in it, because I'm only there less than 2 months a year, and it's just not fair to the house. The house that big and old really requires full-time residents.
And you said that's going to be a show at some point?
It might possibly be. There's a couple things going on. One is I wanted to do a show I called it Andy Mayberry and Eddie Munster in the Twilight Zone.
Ooh.
Which is basically a Hollywood actor kid returning to his home roots in Mayberry, which was Macon is a little town, and the Twilight Zone obviously is the overtone of the ghost, of the paranormal activity. And if that works out, that may be something that may happen. And if not, I'm working with another friend who has a show called Toy Scouts, which he goes around the country, somewhat like American Pickers, but featuring nothing but extreme big toy collections and finding those long-lost toys for celebrities that would like to sort of relive their Christmas mornings again 40 or 50 years later.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, keep us posted. We'll be checking in, because I mean, that show you're pitching and sounds amazing. And I know my audience. I'm into spooky stuff, and I've always been a horror film fan, and I've loved the Munsters forever. And I think everybody would be inclined to want to check that out. So
I know
that just sounds like the best show ever. Like 3 premises put together like that, I'd be tuned in every week for sure.
Well, I figure everybody would like to. Some people would love to know what it's like to be able to go back to your childhood and reclaim a little bit of your youth, and at the same time restore a house and for grandpa's memory and connect with some old childhood friends, and at the same time feel some paranormal some action there as well. So we'll see.
Well, hopefully it pans out. Well, there you have it, cats. I would like to thank again Butch Patrick for stopping in and talking to us. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you. Yes, it's
Thank
been
you very
great.
much.
And
I
just wanted to
have a good one.
thank you so much. And we're back, cats, on the Balls from Ellwood show. Wasn't that great hearing Butch Patrick, cats? I'll tell you what, it was a blast for me. But it is, in fact, that time again. You know her. You love her. It is now time for XTina and XTina's Depravity Corner. Would you like to say anything to the fine audience, XTina? What do you have for us this week? How could you possibly top last week? Is it even possible?
I don't know. I mean, this one's not some crazy story, but it's more of a sad story. I tend to like the crazy, but I'm gonna take a break from crazy today. And not that this ain't crazy. I don't know. Y'all be the judge. We'll find out. I guess it's pretty darn crazy. So this is like fresh news. Just happened, I believe, yesterday or the day before. So what is this? You'll be hearing this on Sunday. So within this week, this happened in Florida, Tampa, Florida to be exact. Some crazy bitch decided to steal a car and drive down to the river, and with her, what is this, a 4-year-old little girl. I mean, I still call that a baby, basically. And the little girl, she was super tiny and super cute, and so therefore she's a baby. But I guess this woman must have lost her shit, because she was seen screaming at the child, and she went and stole a car and drove down to the river, got out with I guess somebody had seen her like throwing the daughter in the car, like pretty rough, and tried to intervene, and then she tried to run them over, and so that didn't work out too good. So somebody did try to save her, but then they got to this river, and the woman, it had been reported that she threw her off a bridge, but that's not completely the case. She actually like walked her into the river and like waded. I keep reading the word waded. She waded into the river, and they got about halfway into the river, and she picked up this little girl who looks to be no more than 30 pounds and just threw her out as far as she could. And of course the poor girl can't swim, and then she just sort of waded her way back, just real slow and pokey, while this poor little girl screamed and screamed for her mommy to save her, and she just let her go. It has been reported that the woman possibly had a Bible and was reciting Bible verses, and it's also said that she, somebody saw, I guess a lot of people called the police because it was a very odd sighting. Because people that live nearby, if they see people in this river, they're swimming, or they have a boat and maybe the boat broke down, and they see this woman fully clothed, and they didn't see a little kid, but she's tiny. So they saw the woman with the clothes on, and they could hear, like, somebody reported that she was counting, like, mumbling or whatever. But prior to that, she was like super erratic when she stole this car, throwing the little girl in the back seat, and just being a complete radical witch. And so, unfortunately, even though all this was reported very quickly, the little girl didn't make it. I mean, she drowned, and now the mom's in jail, thank goodness. But I found this to be pretty fascinating, too. I did a little more research, and about 9 months ago, the little girl was tested and thought to be on the autism spectrum. Now, that's what they're saying, because there's a GoFundMe out there to the tune of $1,500. They wanted, because she needed money to buy equipment, like therapy equipment for her daughter's autism I don't know about that. That sounds a little shady. Oh, and given the fact that this woman has a prior criminal history of theft and robbery, I'm a little doubtful about that there. GoFundMe there, folks. And the good news is she didn't get a single dime. No one bit for her silly little crime she was trying to commit by theft by deception. Trying to sell your kid out to claim they have a disease, which I guarantee you this little girl probably didn't even have. And people are just so ridiculous. I can't even with this lady. So hopefully she'll just, go to jail for a very long time. They said that they didn't even post bond at this time, so I guess she has to wait until the next time she sees Mr. Judge to see if he'll even give her any bond, which surely I hope they don't. And I mean, what's odd too, though, is usually, when you see these people and you assume they're complete pieces of trash, I will say this: she did have a full-time job in the healthcare industry, and she was also going to school to become a nurse. So I mean, she's not really like totally being a scumbag, but clearly she is. I don't know, man. What do you feel about this one, Balls?
Well, I have to say, I mean, I honestly kind of thought, by how you're explaining it, that it would in fact kind of be a weaker story, but I mean, it still hits me with an impact. I mean, every week, it never ceases to shake me. I mean, and here's why. Like, I don't understand. First off, I got a couple different points to make. I don't understand why people, in the very, event when things get tough or things get over emotional or things get, out of control, the first thing that these wackos decide to do is, hey, I'm gonna kill my kid. I mean, does it? I don't understand, and it seems to be a very, like a plague in this country where people just. That's the first to go to move, like, by any wacko nowadays. Why is this disconnect? Like, how come their brain thinks this way? How did they become this way? How come the first thing they don't think of is like, wow, like, if I am like that, horrible of a parent, or if I can't wrap my brain around this, and perhaps maybe I'm not good for this child, I'll find somebody that is. I mean, there's so many people. I've known people in my life, and I've seen the struggles that they have and they want a kid more than anything. And I've seen people go through 10 years. I mean, I work with somebody, and I've watched, them struggle for years, and all they've ever wanted was a kid. And, like, you have people every day, these wackos and nuts, and like, they're, the first thing they think of is, like, I'm just going to kill my kid. It's so nonchalant. I mean, how can a mom have that special bond, like, of birthing a child, and then you be so nonchalant in killing it, and that brings me to my second point. These, I have a feeling this lady was probably, a religious nut, and that being said, I mean, it just takes one. So much atrocity has been done in the name of religion. It's disgusting. I mean, I could see how people would be turned off by religion. I do understand that. Like, I myself, I'm not that way, but if somebody told me they were, I mean, I really couldn't argue. I could totally rationalize as to why they would feel that way. I mean, this is a good example of, and this lady is reciting Bible verses, and let's just say, hypothetically, let's say you don't believe. I mean, I personally believe there's got to be, something out there, a God. But let's just say you don't. But just humor me for a few seconds. You brought this kid into this world. And now you're like, you're more or less like, what do you think if you recite a few Bible passages before you murder your kid? He's going to be like, it's okay. Everything's cool. Let's just say there is a God, he's going to be cool with that, like, because you read a few Bible verses. I mean, if that's the case, I'm going to read a couple the next time I jerk off, then I won't feel so guilty. I mean, it's just completely ridiculous. I don't understand. XTina, you have anything else to add to this? Because,
Yeah, actually, I do. You brought up a good point about, like, people wanting kids and all of this, and the thing with now, like, if you have a baby, you can drop the baby off at the hospital with no questions asked, and a lot of the fire stations are putting in, like, baby boxes, and you put them in there, like, temperature controlled, and an alarm goes off as soon as you leave it, no questions asked, nobody needs to know about it. That's all well and good, but, like, what happens when they're, like, 4 and 5 and they still want to start killing them? Like, I feel like they need to have, like, we care more about, and believe me, I care a lot about pets. Don't even say that I don't. I am a pet lover to a sickness, if you ask Balls. So the dogs and the cats, but they're constantly having, like, adopt the pet, adopt the dog, adopt the cat, all these events, and come see our animals, and we'll reduce the cost. And you know how much it costs to adopt a child in this country? Something to the tune of like $30,000. That's if you're lucky. Why? Why is that? So, I mean, I think number one, that needs to change because people would be more, I think, if it's like, I understand, if you don't have an adoption fee with your pet, people tend to abuse it, or they assume that it's, if you're giving them away for free, they do tend to go to the people who are going to abuse them. So, I mean, obviously you got to charge some sort of fee, but I feel like there needs to be like a mass adoption event at the, like at the foster care centers and at the, wherever they keep, like Annie, is that what they're called? Foster care, whatever. But yeah, there needs to be like special adoption day for, $2,500. I don't know. It has to be some sort of an amount where, weirdos probably can't get to them. But I mean, I don't know what the solution is, but something needs to change. This woman should have, possibly taken her kid. I mean, gosh, she could have gone to like a church and said, hey, do you know any families in your congregation that might want to adopt my baby? And, we'll do it for free. Or I'm sure she would want some sort of money for it. Go ahead, sell your kid. If you're going to sell your kid to somebody so that they have a better life because you can't take care of them, I'm all for it. That's better than, selling them to sex slavery or something. Jesus. So, again, if that's an illegal thing, then that needs to change as well because, that's ridiculous. Okay, you want to make $5,000 off your kid? Sell it rather than kill it. Jesus. Anyway, I think I'm done now. I'm out.
Well, I mean, I'm going to bring up one more point before we close. I mean, this is actually an interesting case. I mean, that is the thing, though. I mean, it's funny. You brought up a good point. I never realized that it's that much to adopt a kid. I mean, there's such an overpollution of people that don't want kids that accidentally have kids. And how can you possibly charge $30,000 for... I mean, it's just ridiculous. I guess there's really no point in beating a dead horse. But I mean, it is good that you point, some light on that because it's such a ridiculous thing. But that being said, cats, that's it for the Depravity Corner this week. I'll be back in a moment, and I'll be telling you about some really important upcoming things coming up. Other than that, as always, if you want to get in touch with either XTina or I at the Balls from Ellwood Show, you need to write us an email at wendychops1976 at gmail.com. Or if you'd like to be so inclined to even donate perhaps to our show or many of the fine programming on the Gonzo Podcast Network, XTina, would you like to tell them where to do that?
Might that be because you don't remember the email address? www.gonzopodcast.com.
That was exactly why. But anyway, yeah, cats. If you want to throw a few bones our way or the network's way, that would ensure us to keep this ship afloat. If you like what you hear and all the other great programs on our network, we would surely appreciate it. Other than that, if you could even log on to www.gonzopodcast.com, and you can even become a patron and be part of a bunch of special things that only Patreons could be part of. I mean, what do I mean? I don't know. You're going to have to log on and check it out. I personally can't tell you. I mean, I would be more than willing to go above and beyond the Call of Duty and do some special stuff for you cats. So, within reason. I don't want you to expect me to send you a video of me hooking a car battery up to my nuts or anything. But within reason, I would surely go the extra mile because, well, frankly, I love you guys. But that being said, we'll be back in a moment. I got some important stuff coming up I wanted to tell you about. We'll do a little briefing of what's on the horizon for the Balls from Ellwood show. And I have to tell you, there is quite a bit. Other than that, we will be back in a few moments, cats. Hold tight.
Some folks like sweets and honey, and weather bright and sunny. Well, it takes all kinds of people to make our world. It's kooky and it's zany, not to like it when it's rainy, but it takes all kinds of people to make our world. I only go out walking when it's dark as pitch, the kind of night that's oh so right for man or witch. It's positively eerie, and folks are bright and cheery. Well, it takes all kinds of people to make a world. It's positively eerie when folks are bright and cheery. Well, it takes all kinds of people. It's very funny, people. It takes all kinds of people to make a world.
And we're back, cats, to the Balls from Ellwood show. As I left you with before the break, believe it or not, that was Fred Gwynn, Herman Munster from the Munsters. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, what an incredibly trained, talent he was. I mean, he came from Broadway before he even did the Munsters. I mean, he was always, a very good actor. I mean, part of me was kind of curious to see how I wanted to, in fact, end the show, because, I mean, it's, as I said before, it was, this was a very big deal to me to have Butch Patrick on, because, I mean, I wanted to end the show special, but the more I think about it, I think the best thing I could possibly do is share with you guys just how much they meant to me growing up. I mean, I always was kind of a kid that never really felt like I fit in. I always kind of felt like an outcast, or I guess a Maryland, by the Munsters ago, and I never kind of, I never felt like I kind of fit in anywhere. So I mean, I related to the Munsters, and I mean, as we talked about in the interview, I mean, I understand how it's universally loved and accepted. I mean, people that are, from, age 8 to 80, I mean, they relate to these characters in this show, and I've always been a big fan of the humor. I mean, I always thought the sight gags were outrageous, and they still hold up to this day. I mean, a show from that time that everybody can still enjoy. I mean, it's funny. I was sitting there, and I was, I wasn't sure if I was gonna actually. I wasn't sure if my stepdaughter would like it, because she's 9. So I'm like, here's the test, man. And I tell you what. Threw on the Munsters. I mean, she loved it as much as I did. So I mean, it just goes to show you it stands the test of time. It's pretty much universally loved and by pretty much any age and every culture. So I mean, that's pretty much what a big deal was to me. I mean, I was always a fan of film. I was always a fan of television growing up. I mean, I have fond memories of staying up late and watching The Twilight Zone and shows like The Outer Limits, and you have your even your Friday the 13th series, your Tales from the Dark Side, and those kind of things. And I would always love weekends, because where I was from, it was WPG 53 would play old Munsters reruns most of the morning. So I was always up for that. And I mean, I just want to remember the incredible talent of all these people. I mean, Al Loomis, he was on Car 54. He was on a bunch of shows. He was on, besides the Munsters. I mean, they were just incredible people, and very influential to the culture itself. I mean, Al Loomis was always a character. I mean, I have fond memories of him from when he was with Howard doing the whole FCC thing. I remember he was on the old Channel 9 show, which I thought was really funny. They did a bit, yeah, I mean, I love the old, there's a clip on YouTube of the old Pat Sajak show, which I know you're saying Pat Sajak. I mean, I think that's what the network said too. That's why it never lasted. But there was a very funny clip of, I didn't want to play the whole thing because it's kind of lengthy, but if you want to check it out, they have, Pat Sajak has Al Lewis on, and the second that he sits down, he is just a funny guy and a charismatic dude. He pretty much takes over the whole interview, and Pat Sajak can't get a word in edgewise. Like, he pretty much commands the audience, and they actually have Butch Patrick. They surprise him and bring him out, and it's just total just kinetic energy and just hysterical. Like, if you could check that out, it's just so much fun. And, I look back at Fred Gwynn. I mean, he was, one of my favorite movies when I was a kid growing up, Pet Sematary. I always thought he was one of the best parts of that, acting-wise. I always thought he was, spooky and, just an incredible, I can't say enough. I mean, this is definitely one of the most influential shows in my life. It was a very great get for me to get Butch on the phone. Like I said, I'd met him at a Steel City Con in Pittsburgh before, and him and his wife were delightful. And just for him to take a few minutes out of his schedule to be on my shitty show really, really meant a lot to me. So, that being said, other than that, cats, I'm going to give you a little briefing of, the big things in store for the show coming up. I'd like to kind of give you a little heads up as to what's going on and what's not. I mean, I still have many other good interviews coming up, and I have a lot that I'm actually in negotiations for in the can. So, I mean, if some of those work out, I will definitely keep you posted. But I have a good 2 or 3 that you guys don't know about that I haven't announced. So I'm really hoping those, that we can work something out and I can get these folks in here to do some more interviews. But as I do know, coming up, I'm going to be, as I said before, I'm going to be heading to the Hard Rock Cafe in Pittsburgh here soon to interview the lead singer of a ska band I've loved for ages, for decades, called the Pie Tasters. I do have, in fact, that coming up soon. I am going to be heading back to the Hard Rock Cafe. I believe it's going to be next month to interview Michael Graves. He was the singer after Danzig and the Misfits. I'm going to be doing an in-depth interview with him before the show, which you will hear right here. I'm pretty excited about that. I am still in November. I know that's a ways away, but I am super excited. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be interviewing Doyle Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein of the Misfits. He's going to be at the Smiling Moose doing some solo shit from his new album. And I will be there, and that's going to be an in-depth interview. And I can't wait for that. I'm super excited. So, I mean, those 3 I got coming up. I actually have an interview. I'm going to Cleveland before I go to Whorehound. The night before we go, I'm heading to Cleveland to see one of my favorites in the world, as you cats know, if you're a regular listener to the show. I'm going to see the Muddy Muddy Boss Tones, and their Mustard Plug is going to be opening. But the opener before that is a little band called Buster Shuffle. They remind me of almost like a reinclination of Madness. So I talked to them. That's in the can. We're actually going to meet before the show, and I'm going to be interviewing them, and I'll play a little of their stuff. You'll get to hear a little bit about them too coming up. So that's all I know of now. Like I said, I got a bunch of people in the pipeline I'm working on. So that's the update as of yet. Other than that, why don't you guys send in your favorite Munster moments? I mean, I could sit here and I could fill the rest of this show and 10 more shows about all my favorite episodes of Munsters, but I'd like to hear you guys send in your favorite Munster moments to WindyChops1976 at gmail.com. Other than that, if you would like to donate to the Balls from Ellwood show or many of the other fine programs, as I mentioned, just go to www.gonzopodcast.com. So other than that, cats, we got a bunch of other stuff coming up in the future to hang out for. I will tell you one thing that does annoy me, though. I mean, there has been, over many of the years, several attempts to try to reboot the Munsters. I didn't get into that with Butch, which it was on one of my it was one of the questions I had. But time-wise, we didn't get to. In fact, there's a couple others I didn't get to time-wise. But I don't understand why, networks and companies over the years think that they could, reboot or recreate the Munsters. I mean, it was such a one-of-a-kind cast and an ensemble cast. I mean, I just think it's ridiculous that they actually think they could capture lightning in a bottle again. I mean, I've seen all these different inclinations, and I tell you what, they're insulting and ridiculous, and they come off really hokey and stupid. I mean, there was I think it was the Munsters Today. It's so, I seen it on one of the social media, or not social media, like your Netflix or Hulu, your streaming sites, and I'm like, I couldn't even stand it for 6 seconds. It made me want to murder. Like, it's so fucking terrible. Like, I'm like, whose idea? I mean, I can't. It went on for 3 seasons. Like, I don't even understand who the fuck watched this long enough for this to go on for 3 seasons. Like, and I know they tried to bring it back too. There was a TV movie with Chris O'Donnell, which I don't have a problem with Chris O'Donnell. In fact, he's a super fan of the show. I enjoy his stuff, but I'm like, wow, man, it's just that was so terrible. I couldn't sit through that. I mean, I just wish they would, I mean, there's things that you can benefit from a remake and a reboot, or there's things that you can in fact touch, or in some way. You either make it your own, or you can, in fact, further the story. And I can tell you that for one thing, the Munsters is definitely a property which they need to just let just be done. You're never going to improve it, because I mean that'd be like it's already gold. You can't get better than gold. I mean, yeah, you can't improve it. It's perfect. And perfection is not to be messed with. So I really hope they stop in the future trying to squeeze every cent out of it. That you're never going to. You're never going to improve it. It's never going to be better. That's all I have to say. It's just insulting to even watch, and to see them try time and time again to even try to bring them back. Just let them be. I want to remember them how I remember them as a kid, and I mean, I still regularly watch them now. And I have to say, there'll be times where I just since I've been a kid, I've always regularly I get a wild hair, and I'm like, I got to throw in the Munsters, and it makes me laugh every single time. There's not too many things that I can laugh about, and I mean, comedy is so subjective that you've seen it once, and then you kind of know it, and you once you heard the punchline, I mean, that's it. But that show is so not that way for me, cats. I can see it. I can see it a million times, and it always, for some reason, makes me laugh out loud. And there's not much things in this world that make me do that. I mean, but I have to say, that being said, yeah, just all I'm trying to say is leave the Munsters alone. The powers that be, knock your shit off, please. So anyway, moving right along. I know this has been it's been a hell of a show, I have to say. What would you cats like to see in the future? I actually have a lot of things coming up. I'm going to be doing some stuff with some people from the network here. I know I'm going to be working together with the Gregster. He's a buddy of mine. I love his show. I'm still thoroughly enjoying my buddy Serial Killer Jack's show. I think that's amongst one of the best in the network. I want to give a shout out to my boy Speech Impediment Man. I know his show's going to be coming back here soon. He was on vacation. And other than that, I actually have a request for the audience. I am actually going to put out there. If you, yes you, would like to, in fact, be a guest on the Balls from Ellwood show, please send me an email at wendychops1976@gmail.com. And maybe you, yes you, could be a guest on the Balls from Ellwood show coming up soon. We could talk about anything. I do mean anything. You can even interview me if you want. I mean, everybody knows I'm in the horror movies. I'm in all kinds of shit. So, like, I am actually extending this invitation to all you out there in Radioland. If you would, in fact, like to be a guest on the Balls from Ellwood show, get at me. This will go on till the end of the month here, and I will choose whoever gives me the best offer. So I mean, or the best explanation as to why you would like to be on my shitty show. So send those letters in, cats, and I will pick a clear winner, and they will in fact be coming up on the show soon. So that being said, I am going to leave you with a very rare and very interesting take on the I don't know if a lot of people know this, but back when the Munsters was first premiering, everybody knows the iconic theme song at this point, but I think a lot of people don't know that in fact there was going to be lyrics to it, which I don't know what happened. I think at the last minute they actually decided that it would in fact not be as cool or sound as good. But they did, in fact, the theme song, the iconic theme song that everybody's so used to hearing, the or in the closing theme, they did in fact have a theme. They did have lyrics. So I am actually going to leave you this week with a little sample of what it would have sounded like with lyrics. So it's a very rare. It was from a very rare vinyl. I think it was called A Night with the Munsters, and that was on there. But definitely would have never been the same for sure. They have a closing theme, an opening theme. Would have both had lyrics, and it sounds very, very bizarre. So I thought it'd be a nice way to end this Munster show, so you guys could see what the theme would have sounded like with lyrics. Other than that, cats, please be sure to tune in again next week. Hope you enjoyed the show this week, and peace and love, peace and love. I will see you next week, cats. Enjoy this Munsters theme, like I said, with lyrics. Tell me what you think.
When you are walking the street at night, and behind you there's no one in view, but you hear mysterious feet at night, then the monsters are following you. If you should meet this strange family, just forget what some people have said. The monsters may shake your hand clammily, but they're not necessarily dead. Behind their house you mustn't be afraid to see a figure digging with a spade. Perhaps someone didn't quite make the grade with the monsters, with the monsters. If when you're sleeping you dream a lot, foolish nightmares parade through your head, and then you wake up and scream a lot. All the monsters are under your bed. At midnight a creature should prowl about, and if bears and vultures swoop down, and werewolves and fiends shriek and howl about, why the monsters are out on the town. One night I did peek through the window screen, my hair turned white at such a crazy scene.
Funny how people are on Facebook like Benji, and they go right on.
Facebook Live.
But one day we're going to invent that.
Periscope. Everybody. High Pitch Eric has a show.
High Pitch Eric, you see the living color. Funny side note, yes.